Hi, Oma Dawn here, and thanks for joining me again today. The little tip we're going to do today is buttons. Buttons, you lose them, washer, they fall off the garment, they weren't on very well to begin with. Then you think you can't wear the garment because you're missing a button. In some cases, it's not a big deal, it's in the bottom, it's going to be tucked into your pants, no big deal. Other times, it's a big deal. So today, we're going to learn how to put on a button. Now, some shirts have an extra, usually located at the bottom. And if you don't have the button that fell off, it got lost while you were out and about, whatever, you can take off that button and replace the one that you're missing. It's really easy to do. Now, usually when you miss one of these buttons, you'll see that there's string still there, the thread. And that helps you a lot because that's where you're going to put the new button on. So when you take off the extra thread that's just hanging there from where the button had been, you'll find that there are two small, well, 2 to 4, depending on how many holes the button have. You can see little small holes of where the button had been sewn on. So you're going to use that as your guide. Next, you're going to find thread that matches as close as possible to the thread already used on your buttons. It's not mandatory, it's just an aesthetic thing. Use whatever thread you have. Having the button on there is probably going to be more important than what color thread you have. Thread your needle. You're going to double it. So pull your strings together, the thread together at the bottom. I usually moisten my finger. It helps me get a better grip. You're going to roll that thread till you see it all twisted. And that's going to make a little knot. It doesn't have to be professional. You might have to practice a time or two. It's not a big deal. Next, where those two little holes were, you're going to come through one of those holes, just up through there, and then you're going to put your button on it. Sometimes you'll notice that there's two sides to a button. Sometimes they're well, you'll always notice there's two sides to a button. Go figure. But when you look at a button, sometimes you'll see that it's got ridges on one side and flat on the other. You'll see that one side looks different. Whatever side looks like the rest of the buttons, that's the side you want up. Now, in this case, these buttons have 4 holes. And you'll notice these are up and down, just 2 right next to each other. Sometimes you'll see them crisscrossed. Either way is fine. I kind of like to match my buttons so that it's not as visible that I replaced one. But as long as the button's on there, it's not going to matter. So, put the button on your garment, and then all you're going to do is push through the next hole. So see, you've got thread already starting to go through, and then you're going to come back up the first hole, and I usually try to do one side at a time, and you just do this. This is pretty simple, pretty repetitive, and you do this probably as much as half a dozen times, however many you need to make it secure. Know that you don't have to do it as many when you have 4 as when you have 2. If you just have the 2 holes and you've got to go through there, you want to make sure it's secure. It's only got that one set of stitches to hold it on. So I got the first stitches in the first 2. Now I come over. Sometimes you have to feel around with your needle till it comes through the little hole. It's not a hard thing. You'll get the hang of it. So you go back and forth through the next set of holes. It keeps wanting to go through the same one I just came out of. Anyway, several times. once you get it on there, at the back, you're going to take your needle and go through the stitches that you made so that there's a loop. You're making a loop. Now you're going to go up through the loop and keep pulling until that loop comes down onto the bottom of your garment there. Do that at least twice. And what you're doing is making a knot so that it doesn't come undone. So you want to do that at least twice. If your thread knots up or starts to all ball up, slow down, undo that knot so that you don't end up with a bunch of loose loops hanging out the back of your garment, because you want them all neat. So there's twice. Depending on how my knots are holding, sometimes I do it a third time just to be sure. But at least twice. That way it'll stay. Then you just cut off close to your knot. Be careful not to cut your knot or your button won't stay on. And there you have it. Repaired garment. Saves on having to buy another one. Saves on paying someone to do something so simple. It'll cut down on your budget. And it's very simple to do. Now you can do it too. Thanks for joining me, and if you enjoy my videos, just press the subscribe button at the bottom, and we'll look forward to seeing you next time.